now, God, you're calling me to not drink. Why? I understand why the need is, because you cannot allow your mind to not be fully functional and like hearing from the Holy Spirit anytime. We have to be sober minded, right? But one thing I would add to that is that just having that layer of one thing that could be looked at as bad, or one thing that could be looked at as like you shouldn't do, you don't want nothing to hinder your relationship with God.
Welcome to the Sober and Wellness Podcast. If you're a businesswoman seeking to elevate your life and unlock your full potential, you are in the right place. I am your host, Abigail Padro, and I am passionate about helping you achieve your next level. We will dive into honest conversation about sobriety, how faith can be a powerful anchor. My goal is to empower you to become the best version of yourself and excel in business, relationship, and beyond. Let's embark in this journey together, and I will provide you the tools and inspiration you need to live an alcohol-free life.
Welcome back to the Sober and Wellness Podcast. I am Abigail Padro, your host. And in today's episode, we have Betty, and I'm excited to hear her story. Betty, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. Doing good.
All right. So Betty has been in this journey for quite a bit, and she's going to get into the details about what got her into this journey. So with any further ado, let's hop in. So Betty, what made you consider an alcohol-free lifestyle?
Okay, so I have to say that it was not me that considered it at all. Wasn't even thinking about it. It was actually God that spoke to me through a video telling someone else to be sober. So
Wow.
That's where it started. It has nothing to do with me. I never thought of it.
I
Ever.
love it. Well, that's a unique perspective.
My idea.
You're like, no, I didn't want to let it go.
Yeah.
Okay, so you felt in your heart that God was telling you to drop alcohol to fulfill your purpose, or what do you think? What was the meaning?
So the actual story is so unique that my church even recorded like the testimony, because the actual story around it is something that obviously hopefully I can share today, because it has so many components. But when you see it, you know, like when after something happens, you're like, okay, God, I kind of see what you're trying to do there. So that's what happened with this story. But really what it was like when I went to this new church that I was going to, the pastor would do like these like 90-day challenge, 20-day challenge. So he would do 21 day of fasting. So like if you don't know what fasting is, basically you sacrifice something to have more time with God. So for instance, some people do food, even drinking certain things. And then other people say, you know what, this is where I'm at. I'm going to sacrifice not being on social media or not drinking alcohol or whatnot, you know? So usually you're doing a trade with God. You're saying, I'm going to surrender this. And so he would do 21 days. And so anytime we did 21 days, I wouldn't drink. And eventually he did one that he's like, listen, we could do 21 days of prayer and fasting, but I'm going to introduce this new idea. I want to do a 90-day challenge where you leave something that you feel like will get you closer to God. He's like, I don't know what it is. It's a decision you have to make, kind of like leave it in your hands. And my husband and I both were like, let's do it. Let's do no drinking for 90 days. This is so crazy. 90 days hit exactly to stop the Monday before we were going to do like the spring break Airbnb with our friends. And when I tell you, like, we were fine, and everyone's like, you're really not drinking, da da da. And we're not even thinking about it. We don't even care. Like, we were totally fine. However, by like the month before, we already had planned our first drink that we were going to have. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it wasn't like doing anything, because we already had planned out, like, he was going to have his old fashioned. That was his drink of choice, you know, in our mature states. That's where he got, right? He would get like the bougie old fashions everywhere we went. And then me, I was just always like what they call a lightweight. I was always the type of person that can drink anything, and I would be like, whoa, I'm tipsy. And so my husband and I, that was our thing. We're grown-ups. We're not partying anymore. We're serious about our marriage and our lives. And so grown-ups drink our classy drinks. So I'll do a wine. He'll do like an old fashioned. And so basically what the pastor was trying to do, without forcing anyone to feel so convicted and so pushed away, is letting a person make their own decision. And so I literally fasted alcohol maybe like 5 times in the past 5 years. And not one of those times did I come to the end and say, like, when I noticed that it didn't bother me, I didn't miss it, I still didn't come to the end and make my own conclusion that I needed to stop. Because our partying days was prior, and now we're drinking with sophistication. Like, do you understand like how society has made you feel like this is brunch? we're communicating. Like if I go out with you, I'm showing you a good time because I'm going to get you a mimosa, I'm going to have a mimosa. The more we have, the more deeper we're going to get. Like it really, I really bought into it, how society's like, you're grown, have your grown drink, have your espresso martini, feel good about it. And nothing ever told me, like, okay, you see how you're good without it? Like, leave it for good. Like, never.
Wow, that's very interesting. I can relate to the whole thing about God speaking to you, because for me, God was telling me a long time ago, years ago, to let it go. But yeah, it's not an easy decision at all. And I also like what you said about the sophistication about it, right? Society has made alcohol so glamorous. You see it in movies, for example, lawyers or people of power tend to have that whiskey,
Yeah.
that actually the old fashioned. I used to drink old fashioned too. I was the other way around. I could drink a lot in the sense that I didn't get tipsy right away. And the sad part is that I was proud about it.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, I can hang like a man. And that's not something to be proud of, but I was. And I will mix all the things. But the old fashioned is because of the whole smoke and the
Yeah.
whole
So those
thing.
are the gifts, right? Like that I would get him, like the big ice, like the block of
Yes.
ice, the smoker, you know, like all the accessories. It's an industry. Like it is
Yeah.
an industry. Like, and then a few years ago in 2020, when like the seltzers really took off, oh my gosh, we loved the White Claw, but then we got introduced to Truly. We loved the Truly, and it was just like, this is the beach drink, and then wine is for at nighttime, and then mimosas is for your girls, and then the nice sophisticated drinks when you go out on a date. And everything had its thing. It's like the same way you accessorize, right? It's like it had a whole lifestyle with it. And something that I said in this video that I did was, it almost, as Christians, this is the crazy part, and it doesn't feel embarrassing because I know that I learned correctly from it, but it is kind of embarrassing to say that the way that I had the liquor in my house was a form of servanthood. Like, you come over and I'm going to serve you a drink, I'm going to show you a good time, I'm going to invite you in. If we go out, I want to cover your drinks. That shows that we care about you, we love you. And so I, as a Christian woman with my husband, a Christian man, was using this as one tool to be like, let's bond, let's connect. We're not getting drunk, but this is a form of servanthood. Let me pour you the drink that you want. And I was literally okay, because what I told someone one time, I was drinking at an Airbnb, and we started to put music on, we started to like listen to all the old songs, and someone became very upset, like, why are you guys, this is all women, why are you drinking, you guys all have husbands. And I defended myself by saying, and I got upset, and I don't even get upset at people. And I got upset and I said, hey, I'm not sinning against my husband or my marriage. I'm loyal, I'm faithful, I'm doing nothing wrong. And I disregarded her need, the fact that she was uncomfortable with like the way we were acting, because I stood up and said, I'm a loyal wife. What is so wrong with it? And so you could understand, like, years of justification made me never look at it the way God wanted me to look at it. Like, he wasn't getting through to me until this one thing happened.
Yeah, I think in alcohol, it's very tricky because there's people out there can have one drink. But my question is, what is it serving you? Because sometimes the fact that when you consume that substance, it does have consequences in your cortisol levels after the fact. Not the
Yeah.
day that you're drinking, the next days, your cortisol levels are higher, so you're going to be more stressed out. And sometimes are those little things that you don't see that has a ripple effect from that one drink. Like, for example, you're like, I'm more stressed. Why am I stressed? Nothing is going on. And I think one of the reasons is because we consume that kind of,
Yeah.
substance. And alcohol is something that it's hard to let go, right? For a lot of people. So I have a question for you, since you're like me, a Christian woman, because this podcast, one of the things that I want to do is reach out specifically also Christian women that are struggling, because I was raised in church my whole life.
Yeah.
And you have your ups and down, and your relationship with God is very personal, and I get that. But I know there's a lot of people that live a double life. They have their church life with their church friends and their church family, and then they have the other life when they're drinking, the partying, and so on. And I really want to be that bridge at where, you know what, I understand you. I know that it is a struggle, because sometimes they don't talk about it enough at church. And the thing is that when you have things in darkness, then that is something that the enemy has power over you. And I just want to create a space where other Christian women can talk freely. Like, yes, not everybody has a struggle, but a lot of us do. It is a struggle. I want to serve the Lord better. And maybe that is the one thing that it's, maybe putting a little bit of pressure in your relationship where you feel like you're not giving your best. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think like now being on the other side, by the way, it's been like 10 months roughly, okay? So like now being on the other side, and this is literally no judgment to anyone who I know in my life who is listening, who still drinks, who has self-control, has acquired self-control, which is one of the fruits of the spirit, to be able to drink responsibly. But now being on the other side, I really do think it's necessary for your Christian walk. And that's like, to me, that's bold to say, because that another person can examine their life and saying like, you're so wrong, that's not true, I feel so close to him, I feel connected. What it did was just kind of take away everything you just said, the double life, the secrecy. We used to have parties at my house, not outing anyone, but like literally with church people, but because other people were more churchy than other people. And you know what I mean by that, we put them in categories of like, are you down and are you cool and are you gonna say something. And we would put alcohol and shots in mugs and act like we were drinking coffee at like a game night, because we were hiding it every single time. This is so true. Anyone that had me on close friends, Instagram close friends. Yes. Okay, so that feature is the idea of having a double life, like meaning there's certain stuff you share in there that you won't share with your coworkers and other people and church people in this case. And every single time I would go out with my husband, or you make it look aesthetically cute, a picture of both your glasses, I would post it on close friends. What is that? Why? And then what happens when all of your alcohol, how some people have it like out, right? It's in a cupboard. Why? Because you could come over, we could have a very wholesome talk, but you're not going to see what I have. It's in a cupboard. That's for other people. When they come over, I open that. So you think it's not. But even me, who was like, I don't even get drunk like that anymore, I'm at the end. I'm towards not even caring about alcohol. Now, God, you're calling me to not drink. Why? I understand why the need is, because you cannot allow your mind to not be fully functional and like hearing from the Holy Spirit anytime. We have to be sober-minded, right? But one thing I would add to that is that just having that layer of one thing that could be looked at as bad, or one thing that could be looked at as like you shouldn't do, you don't want nothing to hinder your relationship with God. Like that's like me putting this plant here. Like I could still talk to you, but like I'm not engaging, I'm not looking into your eyes. Maybe you could hear, maybe you could not. I would push it aside and say, I want nothing to hinder this connection right now. Like I'm talking to you. It's like this is the same thing with God. And I just feel like any substance, and this is why the pastor would say his story. He would say the challenge, but he would say his story. He would be like, I've been sober for 40 years. I haven't smoked. I haven't, like he'll say the whole thing. And now I get it. You really shouldn't let anything hinder. And so, not to go like any longer on this question, but one thing that I would say is that I started submitting other things to God after this, because I was like, yo, it unlocked something with me and God. And so I would say, pray about it and talk to God about it. In your process of maybe 21 days, 30 days of not drinking, see like, do you really need it? Like, anyways, that's what I think. I think there's a true layer that if you could be honest with yourself, that fights have came in your marriage because of drinking, jealousy. Think about all the times you're drunk and you think someone's looking at someone and someone's looking. Jealousy came up, arguments, anger, and also just like actions that you would never do when you were sober. Why would you add that just to have a good time and then end the night arguing when no one sees you and you're behind closed doors and you're arguing with your spouse, you're both drunk, you're both rude and disrespectful. And it's like, that's what you're trying to keep in your life? Why did I try to keep that in my life? Like I had to answer those own questions, like, but you know what? In my case, my husband and I made the decision at the same time. And so some people, if they're making that decision and they're waiting for the other one to come in, you got to pray for that, because it's like you're one or you're not. Like you're one or you're part. So that's what I would say. For real, it has to. You have to look at it and say, is it hindering God? And so try it out. Because if you don't try it out for 20 days and say, no, nothing changed, I'm still good with God, I still feel fine, I still hear from him, I feel the urge to, if you still feel fine, then okay. But I think ultimately it has to be done.
Yeah. Well,
sober.
first of all, congratulations on 10 months.
Yeah,
That you're
thank you.
almost at the year, and that's amazing. And yes, we're not judging anybody that drinks alcohol at all. You know, it
Yeah.
is your unique decision whether you drink one or you want to drink a whole gallon of it. That is your choice and it's respected, right? Always do it responsibly because obviously there's consequences. And the thing is that alcohol brings so many consequences. How many of the fights, like you're saying,
Yes.
fights, all of the, like a lot of the things that happen when it comes even with legal action, a lot of them alcohol are always involved,
Yeah.
especially with domestic violence. You know, the DUIs, people kill. It's you put so much at risk. I tell people now, listen, if you're gonna go into like a drinking bender or you know you're gonna party a lot, just take an Uber. Even if it costs you $100, 150, I don't care, 200. That's still better than putting yourself at the risk of getting a DUI or even killing somebody else, which has happened, and the guilt. But with that said, I believe that in order to have a closer relationship with God, that alcohol has to be removed. And it is a bold statement. And it's a statement that bothered me for many years.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I was the rebels of rebels. So trust me when I say this, I understand it to the core. My dad was a pastor. I come from a family where my uncles are pastors in Puerto Rico. They retire, but they still pastoring because that's just their calling. So I come from that lineage of you have to be right, you know, you cannot drink, you cannot do anything. Basically, you have to become like a saint, and that's impossible, right? Because we don't get to heaven by our works. But I do believe that when God sees you, you know what, she really is trying. She's trying to give me that, because sometimes we make alcohol an idol. And we are more obsessed with the alcohol than serving God. Something interesting that you also said was how we use it to serve others. And as a Christian people, that should not be the way we serve other, because that's not the way that Jesus serve other. And maybe people are gonna say the typical one, well, Jesus served wine. Listen, I don't think he was serving wine like, oh, let's all get drunk here. That was not his purpose. So I think serving is, you know what, how about we talk, we open up. Sometimes just having a conversation where you're both sober minded and saying, listen, I am struggling with this, and building that trust, that is serving. Or let's open the Bible, let's have a little Bible study. Right now there's so much content. You create that type of content that you talk about God. We need to be more aggressive when we talk about God, because the world is being very, very, very loud, right? With the other stuff. So we also have to be the people that remind people, you know what, there is another way. There is the way that you can have God in your side. And he can help you taking alcohol away from your life. I truly believe that, because that's your testimony. He really helped you. Some people, it doesn't sound like you struggle and it was a battle. I have other people in this podcast that have literally battled to the point that they went to a hospital because they were depending on it, and not because they were non-functional, just because they were a daily drinker, right? And the secrecy, isn't that something that you had? One for close friends, one. That is my point. If alcohol is not that bad, why do we have to keep it a secret? Right? Or why we have to put, I have heard story where people put bottles in different bags or different times, so when they put them outside, doesn't go with the clicking. I think that's funny.
There's so many things to do, and it's funny because when we first started, right, we went to like this military ball. So listen, in the military, don't care what you say, they drink. They don't drink, they drank. Okay. And like one of the ceremonial things that they do is they make this huge big jug of different alcohols that they put in, and then you have to like drink throughout the night for different things, and you toast. They have like one that's, you know, like for sober people, just juice and different things, and the other one that's there. So I'm like, this is the true test. This is the big one. Like, you're about to go see like everyone that you know from the military, my husband and I, right? And we were in a crowd where his like mentor wanted to like give him a gift for his promotion. And so he literally is a sergeant first class, and it's just like a big deal. So he gives him like this nice expensive bottle, and he takes him aside and he tells him, he goes, don't you worry about it. He closes it, he puts it away. He tells his wife immediately, and he's like, okay. We've drank with them. So we go into the crowd of people that are about to come saying, hey, you're about to get some. He's like, no, I'm sober. The guy looks at me, he goes, he do. What did he do? What did you do? What did you do to Betty? And he like thought like, you messed up. This is why you're probably sober. And then after that, people would say, is it like better for your health, or did you want to like lose weight? We also got like, what happens if something happened, meaning like was something so bad between you guys? And so in my particular case, you know, that wasn't the case. It was literally God. And if you don't mind, like I could share the story of like how it happened.
Of course.
So because it's just crazy. So basically my husband and I were trying to sell our home. Okay, so you know about this. And we're trying to buy a new home. So the home that we were buying was secured, but the home that we were selling, we spent so much time trying to fix it up and everything like that so that we can sell it, but we just hadn't put it on the market yet. So you're talking about signing a contract and then just leaving the other one and saying, hey, let's see what happens. There was so much going on at the time. So my husband's mom got a diagnosis of 3 years. She had cancer, and the diagnosis was kind of like, was it not the diagnosis? What is that word called? Basically like what they told her, that you have roughly around prognosis, you're going to have roughly around 3 years. This might get a lot worse before it gets better. There's going to be good times, but there's going to be really difficult times. And she's at that stretch where everyone knows it, everyone feels it, and this is it. This is why we've been making sure we spend time as a family. This is why we've tried to be close. And you're seeing her physically look different. And so my husband, his brother, was basically her caretaker. And he himself was like working as a full-time person, but he was spending the night at the hospitals, like just because it's one of those things where you never know and you don't want to not be there. And so while that's happening, I'm packing an entire house with 3 kids and a dog and trying to get us into the new thing. And so in the understanding that, hey, you don't use credit cards during that time, we are okay just using the funds that we have, right? And so there's financial stress, there's actual stress of like the moving and everything like that. And then there's this huge life crisis that is happening in our family where a family member is going to be passing away soon. We know it and we feel it. And so prior to this, the grandfather and the grandmother had passed, like boom, boom, boom. And so we're like, can we do this again? Like a funeral again at the same funeral home? Like it just feels like, and so while my husband is dealing with that life crisis, and he's got a good head on his shoulders, but this of course could like break any man. Like it doesn't matter who you are, this is going to break you. I'm here and I feel alone in the moving process. I feel tied up in our finances, like our spending, like our budget. I feel confused in the process of like, wait, when are we going to put the house on the market? I'm so confused. Like, what if it doesn't sell? Are we going to pay for 2 mortgages? Like, he didn't even have time to think about it. And so I go to a women's conference and I'm there with the girls in my life, my daughters and my nieces, and I'm older than them. So of course I feel like I have to be put together, and I am broken. I walk in and I said, God, I need a word. I need a word. I know it's going to be good. I've been to these before. I need a word. And we sit down after worship and they play this video of this woman, and this woman has like this condition where her bones break all the time. And so she's showing pictures and is showing her like in cast and wheelchair and crutches her whole life since a baby. And she says that at one point she's like, forget it. I lived so cautiously my whole life. Nothing could ever happen to me bad. Everyone has to be cautious around me. I'm going to do my thing. And it shows her pictures of her drinking, going out, but doing what she's going to do. She said one day she actually was close to death, where she took a bath after drinking all night. Her friend said, just take a bath, you'll be fine. If it wasn't for the fact that she was on the second floor of her apartment, all the water out of the bath drained to the bottom floor, and they called the maintenance guy wouldn't have pulled her out of the bathtub.
Oh my God.
And so you're watching this video and I'm just like, whoa, like this is an insane testimony. Still no connection because I'm just listening to her story. And she said she went to the conference, and when she got in the car, God was like, for the next season I have for you, I need you sober-minded. I need your sober mind. And mind you, they have like captions. So I'm sitting there like just as a guest, waiting for my word, you know, like, what's my word, God? Make me a powerful wife that could be here for my husband. When I read it and when she says it, God said, that's for you. And I was like, no way. Like, no way. Like, I got like chills, but I also was like, no way. Like, what? And I'm like, I don't even remember the last time I drank anything. Maybe a mimosa when I got my nails done. I was like, what? I become upset. This is so sad. This will always have to be my story, that I was this way against God. And I have to say, I can't skip this part, that I became upset and I said, God, everything that I'm going through, I can't even breathe. And I have to fake it in front of these girls, and I want to cry, and like, you're telling me like to not drink. Like, what does that have to do with anything? I felt like it wasn't I don't know, to my standards of what I was looking for. And so a woman comes on towards the end of the night. They already did preaching and talking. And she says, there's someone here who's stuck and their feet feel planted on cement, but it's not. It's your mind. You have to get out of it. God is telling you one thing. He just needs you to know one thing. And he gives you one word. And she said, move. Take one foot up and step forward towards him, and he's going to rush towards you. And she's like, someone here needs to move their leg. Mind you, we're standing up. It's like the end. People are giving like prophetic words. And I hear crying everywhere, and I can't move. And I'm like sensitive to God. Like, I love when God talks to me. Like, I don't care who's around me. Like, I'm that person. And I'm so like annoyed that I'm stuck and I won't move. And she said, again, move a step towards me and he'll rush towards you. Okay. So the next day I go to church. I hadn't seen my husband. He's at the hospital. They play the video again. Girl, they play the video again. Do you know that this pastor is such an organized person? You could tell he's like the one that knows everything that's going on in the church. When the video stops playing, he literally goes, I didn't know they were going to show that. And I'm like, no, this is for me. Like, I'm there with like 500 people in this church, whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, they did not just play the video again. And again, when it gets to that part, God says, that's for you. This is so ugly. So I'm just like, I'm all broken. I'm in my ways. I feel stressed. And so I'm crying and whatever. My kids that service decide to get baptized. And I'm like, and God is like trying to get my attention. And I'm just like, okay, I'm here to support them getting baptized. And that's it, right? So I go home. I haven't seen my husband for a few days. And we're in the closet and we're saying, what are we going to do? How are we going to pay for this? He said, well, I don't know how we're going to do it, but we have to pay the mortgage here and then the mortgage here and da-da-da-da. Like, we're trying to figure it out. And we argue it out, you know, when you argue it out, but then it gets calm. So in the midst of my argument, I'm going, God, it's telling me to do something I can't even understand, blah, blah. And so now we're calm. And now we're sitting on the floor of the closet. We're done with the crying. Like, we both cried, you know, we're done with like the chaos. And we're just like, okay, we let it out. And he goes, oh, what was it, by the way? And I'm like laughing at this point, you know, after you cry, you gotta laugh. And I'm like, he told me to stop drinking. And he's like, why do you think you can't do it? And when he asked me that, this is crazy. God, in my head, an audible voice said, do you think you're not gonna be fun anymore? To me, which is like devastating because of how embarrassing, right? And so I was like, I don't know. And then he's like, so what do you mean? And I was like, well, God, and I said the whole thing, what I just told you. I said the video and I say about, and I played a second time today. And like, this is what God wants. I didn't know that on his way home, he's like, God, give me a word. God, give me a word. Right? Not, I'm going to go speak to my wife and have an argument. He just was craving God. The same way I went into the conference, he was like, I need something. I need something. Like, I'm drowning in this and I'm the provider. I'm the man. And he doesn't even let me finish. Like, after I explain the whole story, he gets up, walks downstairs, opens our cabinet, a little cabinet that we have, right? It's top and bottom, by the way. It's like, whoosh, a long cabinet. And he starts, by the time I get down there, he had already opened the first bottle. One of the first ones he opened was a $150 unopened bottle. Wow. He opens it and he starts pouring it. And then I was like, I start crying. I'm like, I don't even ask or say nothing because I know what's happening, but like, I'm like in shock. I start crying. And he's just like this, and he's focused. He's getting everything out. He's getting everything out. And I go back upstairs. I get my phone. I have a video of this, by the way. I start recording, and the real, without sound, you could hear me crying. And he's like, we're going to do this. We're going to do this because we need a word from God. Like, I'm going to do this with you. But like, I need you to do this too, though. And he's talking to me as he's pouring, and I'm just showing, like, I'm recording it. My kids come down and go, what's that smell? You remember the smell of like a downtown club? That nasty beer smell? My whole house was like rum, tequila, gin, you know what I'm saying? Like vodka. Yes. My whole house smelled so bad. And they're like, what is that? And like, to do that in front of them and to be like, are we doing this? And I'm like, let's do this. We had no solution. We didn't have a cure for his mom. We didn't have any money solution for our thing. We still had half the house unpacked, half the house over there. There was no solution, but we made a decision. A late decision. I made a late decision. He made an immediate decision because he heard it and he said, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take your word and take it for myself because I'm holding on to dear life. And if God is saying something, I'm going to take it. We go to bed at peace, like knock out. And this is the last part of the testimony. Next day he calls me and says, call me when you get out of work. And I was like, don't do that, bro. Because everything right now is about the house or about his mom. So it's always bad news has been coming nonstop. And he goes, someone called me, says the name of the person, and said, man, I woke up with God just had you on my heart. And then I talked to my wife and God had, you guys on her heart. And we just started talking. And so I'm just calling. I don't want to bother you, but I'm just calling to let you know, like, we're going to cover 2 months of your mortgage on your old house.
Wow.
And my husband just like broke in his office. I couldn't even believe it when he told me. And do you know when the house sold? In October, in exactly 2 months. These people paid exactly what we needed to be paid until we sold it. Not even by the end of the second month, after we paid the mortgage, the papers were signed. Someone had bought it. It was a pastor that bought the house.
Wow.
Okay? This is crazy. Now, his mom ended up passing mid-September. So we were sober as of August 20th. That caretaker brother that I told you that watched over his mom, such a good son to his mom. When she passed away, he lived with her. He also was deciding to be sober and needed to be sober, especially during this time. He was very close to his mom. And he ends up moving with us. And so we've like all just been sober. Like, it's just insane. Like, I can't believe what the money was. That whole money thing was not so much like, oh, look, listen to God and you're going to get a financial blessing. It wasn't that. It was, wow, God, how did you have mercy on me when I disobeyed you 2 times? And it took my husband to make me listen to you. Like, you still blessed me. You still took care of us. You still saw the pain that we were in. You answered his prayer and my prayer. Like, to me, that's why I said after that, I kept wanting to submit things because I was like, screw it. Forget it. Like, I'm not letting nothing hold me back. And honestly, it has been a crazy road, a blessed road. Like you said, I've been doing Christian content. I have Bible studies at my house. I don't have to worry about the teenage girls opening my cupboards and finding any alcohol. I want to be a good role model towards them. I was obsessed with books, with romance novels that had spice. That means basically like sexual things in it sometimes. I left that in January. It took a little longer to leave that one, but because I love reading books, and I left that. And so the verse in Proverbs, it says like, let us lead not into our own understanding, but submit all to the Lord. And so that right there, that little Proverbs, I think it's like chapter 3 something, that right there makes me feel the confirmation that you do have to submit all to God. Like that's it right there.
Yes.
Like all of it, like even who we are, like, because we're not changing who we are, we're just changing our habits.
That's true.
And so it's the craziest story I have in my life. So anyways,
that is the point of this podcast, those kind of story. And what a powerful testimony. Really, that's just to show our listeners that God is real. First, God is real. And second of all, you know what? You didn't have anything else, but you had faith. And sometimes that's all we need, faith. We don't understand what's going on, how it's going to be fixed, what's going to come, because how will you know somebody's going to call you and pay the exact amount of money that you need in that moment that you're struggling? But your obedience, that shows God, listen, she has the heart, even though it's hard for her and for him to do this, they still doing it, and God will honor you, right? Yeah. Those were his plans. And I think your husband is amazing. I love him already.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I know all marriages are not perfect, and you guys been together for a long time and understand each other. But not a lot of people will do that. Yeah. Especially when it comes to this specific situation. Because he could be like, hey, that's a you thing with the Lord. The Lord didn't tell me anything, honey. But he went with it because he understood, and probably God gave him that little nudge. Yes, she needs to do that. And that's the difference between having support and not support. Yeah. That's why we create podcasts. That's why there's so much content out there about sobriety, because you don't want to do this alone. Yeah. Not everybody has a husband that with you. There's people that are struggling because they stopped drinking and the husband or the wife still drinks. So I've seen both. And that takes a toll on you. Why? Because you're no longer the same person. You start growing, you start changing for the best, actually, not to be scared. And then you still see your person, right? The one you love, and the same pattern And
Yeah.
sometimes it's self-destructive. And then they get drunk and you're not drunk. That is the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah, and that had happened in prior times when I told you like I would fast. Sometimes I was fasting, not him. So I'm so glad you like highlighted him because he's such a big part of this story. Like I'm the vocal one, so of course they're like, oh, Betty's not drinking anymore. It's my story, and I'm gonna share it. And he's a behind the scenes type of man, but he's such a big part of the story. What would have got me to listen to God? There's no way I would have ever thought he would have walked downstairs and started. He didn't tell me. Like he did not tell me this is what I'm gonna do. He's just like, hey. In fact, he walked out saying, "You go ahead and sit and dwell on it." Like when I hear God, I know
action.
Yes, because he was so desperate for God's word and he took it. And so that should have been my posture. I should have been like, I'm gonna grab this. Wow, I asked for something, and minutes into the service, when the video shows the person hasn't even started preaching yet, you give me a word to stop drinking. Lord, thank you. Wow, you're so faithful. Like that should have been me, and it was not me. And like I said, it sucks that that's the part of my story, but that's okay. That's always gonna have to be told that I was disobedient, but it was delayed disobedience, which is the same thing as disobedience. But look at how merciful he is, because I couldn't imagine going to all these places without him also being. So, you know, that's one thing that I endured when I first started going to church. I went without him before he got the hang of it and he started following God. So I walked that walk. So I feel like God was like, this is going to be a both of you thing. It's successful because of that. It really is. And to be honest, we have found that none of our friendships have changed. Nothing has changed with friends. We have the same people. There's still people that sometimes when we have gatherings, because they're so used to it, they'll bring drinks to our house. They drink it, they have it all to the side. There's no judgment. I've never kicked anyone out or done anything rude because we have our stance. But little by little, people have an understanding. And it's just like no one asks, no one nothing anymore. We found our tricks are first, though. Like, I don't crave it, but we found our tricks that you have to have a drink in your hand so no one offers you a drink. So I don't know if you do that too, or you just want something already. So sometimes we'll have like an energy drink or something. They don't know what's inside, like ginger ale, algo así, you know, like Coke. It looks dark. They think it's Coke and rum. And we, when we go to like events, we have it so that way people are so used to our the culture we started of giving drinks that people, even at this wedding, my cousin's wedding, just a few months after that, everybody was just buying us drink. Here, I got you one. Like they don't even ask because that's the formality. That's how you do it, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, whatever. Or we would put it somewhere and be like, you know, like whatever. But so we did learn some things, but you're so right. And he's a big part of that. His obedience was just kind of like a testament to the things, the way I have to grasp onto God. And honestly, to our kids too. Our kids had jokes because they would know. Remember I told you I was a lightweight? They would have little jokes because sometimes I would be like, I would know I was tipsy when my nose would be feeling like it's falling asleep. I know that's weird. Trust me, I've never heard one. My nose would be numb and it would feel like the feeling when your leg is asleep. And so they would be like, Mama, touch your nose. And so here I am raising these kids, and I would have these moments where I would just have one sip of something or something, and I'm already kind of a little louder. Imagine I'm already loud. So, you know, imagine like a little louder, a little more huggy. My husband would be more huggy with the kids, and they had jokes on us on how we acted and how we were. And so that's the part that you also are like, man, like we really were creating the same atmosphere.
Yeah.
Now, none of them are 21. What will they do with that decision when they're there? What would they do? That's on them. But now they have, as of now, an example in their home that we're not drinking, and they know the why too. They know this whole story. You know, they're old enough to know this story, and so now they have to come to that decision when they come and say, like, am I going to drink? Am I going to allow it? Am I going to try it? That's on them, you know. But they have at least a testament of like someone who did it.
Yeah, that is important. You know, our kids see what we do. You can tell your kids all you want, but you have to walk the talk. It's more they watch you. That is really what makes the impact on kids. Because you can say, yes, don't do this, don't do that, but here we are getting drunk. Or, yeah, I just do it one time or here and there. Or I'm the adult. So then we start creating this social thing that it's okay when you're an adult to drink alcohol. And the fact that you're giving your kids that example, it's huge because you said it right. At 21, they're going to have to make that decision, but at least they're going to know both sides from you guys. Okay, when you were drinking and when you were not. What would you say is being the benefit for your kids about having now two parents that are sober minded?
Well, I feel like it's something that someone told me that was 20 years in ministry, years of being a youth group leader that she was. the biggest conflict that she saw that would cause problems for a child to actually serve God and actually like submit their life was the fact that the hypocrisy they would see in their parents. And I was like, and it took me a while for her to like explain it, but she said, they would be like, they tell me to clean their room isn't clean. They tell me don't lie, but we hear them on the phone lying. They tell me don't gossip, but we hear them on the phone gossiping or talking. They tell us don't fight. Me and my siblings can't fight, but look, mommy and daddy are always fighting. She said the hypocrisy of parents is what holds kids back. This was just a casual conversation. She was not talking to me, but she was talking to me. So my answer is, I think it's us being like what you said before, completely transparent. There's nothing to hide no more. There's nothing, no part of our lives that we hide, or like, oh, what'd you do on your date night? We have to leave that out, or I have to block my daughter from my Instagram so she won't see that I'm out. I think the biggest benefit is that we are not only transparent like in front of other people, but our kids, because your kids really see you, like they know you, they see you like upset, they see you before church, like everyone get in the car, like so they see that side of you, but like for there to be like no layer, again, kind of like with the relationship with God, for them to basically know all of you, I think it brings a huge benefit. Because if you're going to be a hypocrite, meaning like say don't do something and then you do it, like you don't want to cause that for your kids, because they're going to be like, so this is serving God, so basically play church. And I think that's what changed. Like me and my kids are closer in the sense of they know everything. Like I said, even this story, they know everything. And that's the benefit. Like I don't have to hide from the world, from my church, from girls, even me, I'm a teacher, for my students. And I don't have to hide from my kids. Like everything's out there.
That's freedom right there. Freedom. My son, he's 19 and about to be 20 actually in August. And he is so proud of me. He tells me all the time, and then not necessarily because I was the drunken mom that was with him, because most of the time I did it without him.
Yeah.
You find the ways to do it without them. But he knew that I drank socially. And the fact that I don't drink anymore, that I do this podcast and all of that, he tells me all the time, I'm just so proud of you. And that's the example that I want to set to him. And now what I tell him, listen, I give him advice. I don't tell him just don't do it, because the faster you say don't, the quicker they want to do it. That was my story. You had, like you said, that minister told you about they don't trust because their parent didn't walk the talk. In my childhood, my dad did walk the talk, but he was way too, how do you say that word? Like when you are, oh my God, very strict. There's a word that I wanted to say, but it's not coming out. Very strict. And he really wanted to serve the Lord to the best of his ability. But I was a lot, our ages, like for example, my dad conceived me when he was 57 years old. So imagine. That means when I was 15, he was in his 70s, well, his 70s. So there's a world of generation. Plus, he's very Pentecostal to the T.
Okay.
So I was raised that way. And I was that rebel Christian girl that wants to, like,
they're like, pastor kids are always like, woo, the opposite, but it's just like a saying, but I think it's because they're so like, they don't,
it's too strict, and it becomes a way that you see the world and you feel like you're missing out. And that's where the enemy comes in and, and gets in your mind and whatnot. But what I'm doing with my son now is I tell him, listen, alcohol just really robs you from being present. It takes your ability to be consistent. It takes your drive away. It takes so many things little by little, because that's the thing. It's a very peculiar thief. It takes little by little until you're in the hole. So I tell him now, he can drink, but at 19 or 20, you find the way. And he has done, and he told me, and he's like, Mom, I don't like it. I'm like, well, you know what? Keep it like that. Because in reality, nobody drinks, and it's like, well, some people do, but usually you don't like the taste of alcohol.
Yeah.
But it's an acquired taste. And I'm like, well, if you don't like it, keep it that way, have a drink. And so the fact that I'm giving this example to him, it's something that makes me very proud. So he can actually see, you know what, it can be done. I can be different. Even we live in a world where you have to explain why you're not drinking, like yourself. Like you have to come up with the idea that I am drinking medication, which it has a space. We're going to get into that now. When you start into have this lifestyle that you're going to go out with friends that you don't want to open up yet about telling them, hey, I am not drinking anymore, you can come up with tools, right? Like things like, hey, I'm doing a 30-day challenge. I think that's really good. Or dry January. A lot of people start with that one and they keep going because they like how I feel.
Yeah.
Or, you know what, I'm in a fitness health journey and alcohol doesn't serve me, until you're going to get to the point that your identity is going to change. And now my identity, Abigail, is a non-drinker. That's it. I don't have to explain it. I don't have to say anything else. No is a complete answer. So for me, if somebody tries to give me alcohol, I say no, I don't need it, or I don't want it. Thank you. Right? You be polite. You're not gonna be like, no, I don't drink this thing because it is poison for you. It's just ridiculous. But you say no. What have been the tools that you've been using? I know you said that you have like a drink in your hand. What else have worked for you to stay in the social aspect of the things?
So like I get like a mocktail, and I feel like that industry is also so big and so huge. Like there's actual drinks. Even a cousin of mine was so sweet for like our Christmas party or something, like our family party where everybody would drink. She brought from ABC Liquor like two different mocktails and stuff like that. But to be honest, I always use the we. So I feel like there's power and force in unity. And so like I literally just go like, oh, we decided not to. So like it's an F from an I. And something about like that unity, or like the way especially many family members and friends respect him, I feel like it's like a like that's it.
That's it.
Oh, Ephraim too, like, oh, okay, that's cool, that's cool. I did though take aside like my close friends and little by little tell them the story, like the whole enchilada, just so they could know like the depth behind it, and because those are going to be the main ones that it would have affected had they cared, but they were supportive, so they could know when we go out, like, I'm not going to drink, you guys still drink, like, do your thing, like, still do it. But it is mostly saying like, oh, we decided not to anymore. Literally that phrase has been like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like it almost like gets a little respect, you know what I'm saying? Like you both decided. And so I didn't really have to project any other like story or anything. And then when I go out, sometimes I'm like, a water and lemon, that might be boring, but most people drink it anyways.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, that's what everybody drinks. But then I'll get like a mocktail. I'll be like, oh, that sounds good. Look at all the fruit in there and all this stuff. And but girl, mocktails are like $17 still. Yeah. Depending where you go, it'll be like all it drops is like $5, and you're still like, oh, okay. But the bill is a lot less. Know that the bill is a lot less without the alcohol, because you get your fruity drink or your whatever drink, and that's your starter, and then you need to keep going. And there's so many lifestyle things that you realize. But I have still, look at this, in 10 months, still have gone to brunches, still have gone to weddings, events, baby showers, girl nights, couple double dates. Nothing has changed except for that. And then at the same time, so much has changed.
Yeah, there's someone that I know says there's nothing in this world that requires you to drink. In reality, nothing. From the fun celebration to grieving. I've been all of it because I lost my father in December, and I was sober, and I am so thankful for that. Thank you. But I am happy that I was able to give him that of the last year of his life. It's something because my dad was a non-drinker his whole life. I don't have that. See, sometimes people say, well, my parents were alcoholic. That's not the only reason, because sometimes I have the story that two kids can have the same parent. One of them is a non-drinker and one is an alcoholic. Absolutely. And they both use the same excuse. One says, well, I don't want to be what my father was. And the other one was, I am what my father was. You see, it's everything is perspective. So we are coming to the end of the podcast. And I always ask this question. For our listeners, what will be the one benefit that you will say, or any key takeaway that they can do if they are just starting to be curious, if they are struggling with being alcohol free? What would that be?
I would definitely say get support. Like immediately tell as many people as you can that you're doing it. If you're starting in it, if that's what they're doing, if you already made the decision to kind of dabble in, let me try to not drink. Let me, you have to tell as many people as possible. Like you cannot go in and be like, well, they'll find out when I don't drink, when I don't buy a drink. You don't want to, in the spur of the moment where everyone's excited or everyone's meeting up, or you walk into a restaurant, to then say like, no, it's okay, I don't want to drink, and then have to explain in that atmosphere. Like take time to tell people in your lives about it, so that there could be a preparation on their behalf. Give them time to get used to it, because you have already started a relationship with them that had to do with alcohol. So give them time. So you really do need support. It can't be something you do on your own. Where's your accountability? Like, what if you do drink? Tell someone. Even if it's someone who's going to laugh it up with you and be like, girl, like, you lasted 2 days. Okay, but let's get on again. Who are you going to text to say it's been 7 days? It's been a month? You know, even if you go as far as to share it on social media so that you are like accountable to strangers. There's something about your word that you don't want to go back on your word, but people are forgiving. So the best accountability is always to have that with God. But I feel like you need to tell people, like, everyone needs to know, like everyone in your house. And if you are on the sobriety journey because you were struggling with drinking problems, you can't have it in your house. You can't. No one should be bringing it to your house. Even if you're like, no, you drink, I'm good. Like, it's your sacred place, you know. So I think it's just really important to tell people, because then you could do anything and they already know. And so let other people adjust to who you are. I mean, we have life changes all the time. Like, if I was like, oh, I'm pregnant, I wouldn't be drinking, right? I would tell everybody. So you just need support. You absolutely need support. And then later, that one thing that God whispered in my ear, like, do you think you're not going to be fun anymore? Later, those voices of what's going to happen and we're still going to be friends will die down, and you'll realize that everyone loves you for you. It has nothing to do with the drink. It has nothing to do with it.
I love that a lot, and it's so true. I want to say that you have an amazing testimony. Thank you for sharing that here in my podcast, and keep sharing it, because everybody needs to see different perspective of different people and their stories. You know, not everybody needs to have a rock bottom or having a situation that you went to jail. Even if that's your story and that's the way that had to work with you, it's okay, obviously. But a lot of people that feel like they don't have a problem, but they're questioning whether they have a problem or not. Well, that should tell you already that there is something that might be a little problem, because you're already introspecting yourself like, that's a little nudge to, okay, maybe let's look into it. And the one thing that I see with everyone that comes to the podcast when I ask this question, and you can try to go see all of them, like if you see the end, everybody says support. Support is the number one thing, because if you're lonely in this, it will suck. It really is. And that's where you have the 100 number one days again, because you're alone and you're trying to do this alone, and you don't have to do this alone. So with that said, thank you so much, Betty, for sharing your story. And for you guys, if you are looking for support and you need any kind of support, please feel free to send me an email. It will be on the show notes. There we can have a free 45-minute Zoom meeting where we can talk on how can I help you.
So nice.
Also look into different communities. Some people don't like AA. You don't have to do AA. I haven't done AA, but there's app like Reframe that we talk about here a lot. There's other one. There's She Celebrate. There's so many community now. The sober movement is huge. So just plug yourself in. Start with a curious mind. Don't put the forever date right away, because you don't know. And at the end, like Betty said, you know what? You will have fun. You will be fun, and maybe even more fun than what you are, because you're going to be in your sound mind, sober, and really remembering how much fun you had. And just all of that is so worth it. So thank you so much. And I see you guys in the next episode.